Hello, lovelies. It's been a while. I'm hopefully going to start being on the channel a bit more. P.S. Look, by the way, folk candle, tea leaves and nutmeg. If you know me, you know that if you lose me in the supermarket, I'll be smelling the tea in the tea aisle. I love tea. I love the smell of tea. Anyway, favourite candle at the moment. Hopefully I'll be on here a bit more. It's been a mad one. And unfortunately, when times get crazy, at the moment, the first thing to go is the YouTube channel. So things are starting to rebalance, and I'm hoping that I'll be here a little more often. I have a crazy hay fever episode, so excuse the weird voice if there is one. Okay, so it's been a while. I practice tarot every day, but it has come to my attention that through collecting, I have a small collection compared to the other, YouTubers out there, but it's come to my attention that I have a lot of decks that I don't really use. And I am in that phase where I would rather have a small collection of tarot decks that work for me, that have a purpose, that have a position in the collection and a use in the collection, than to have loads of decks and not most of them, but some of them not have any purpose or use. So I'm considering culling a few decks, although it's not my favourite thing to do because, you go through phases with certain decks, and, Racine likes to put decks on vacation. They're having a holiday from their work, which is fine. But I feel like with these particular decks, they've been on holiday now for too long. So maybe I might change my mind as I get them out and go through them with you, but maybe not. If not, I'm going to put them up for sale on my website. So yeah, look out for that if any of them interest you. The first one is the Ostara Tarot. It has 4 different artists. I love tarot as little pieces of artwork. I really do. However, saying that, the box really annoys me. This split deck box, oh my God, just does my head in a little bit. There's a few niggly points with this deck. First of all, the cards are not the same. They're not the same height. I had like one half of the deck one size and the other half of the deck the other size. Anyway, this is how it came. It doesn't bother me too much. That doesn't bother me too much, to be honest. As someone who trims her decks all the time, I often end up with, some different sizes in a deck. It's not that much of a big deal. But this box irritates me. So, going through the deck, let me see if I can zoom in here. There we go. Yeah, as you go through the deck, you will notice that there are a lot of different styles. Obviously, 4 different artists. It's only to be expected that they have different styles. I was up for that. I am still up for that. I think my biggest issue with this deck is that there are some cards that just aren't obvious as to what suit they are. The coins have all got coins in, so that's, fine. Some of them are really obvious and really readable, and the other ones are just not necessarily. There's a lot of play, like this one. This is obviously the 6 of Wands, but there's a lot of play with water and the fish. There's an elemental input into the cards to reference other elements that aren't necessarily of that suit. And if it's not obvious with the sticks, they can be a little bit difficult to read, to know what's happening. Now, saying that, however, I have started finding more recently, for past life readings and ancestral readings, that reading intuitively I find reading intuitively for ancestral and past life readings a lot more, I suppose, it seems to have a lot more of a tangible outcome for me. Do you know what I mean by saying that? Tangible outcome? I suppose that's not the right phrase, but it seems to work better for me. So I'm wondering whether to revisit this for ancestral and past life readings. And then, you know, if it doesn't work out, then I will most probably put it up for sale. It's been a very long while since I've said, oh yeah, I need to use that deck. So long that, you know, for the most part, I forget I have it. And then when I get it out again, I'm like, I'm not sure. Now, what decks do I pull instead of this one? I suppose for me, I would pull the Margaret Peterson, which is weird because the Margaret Peterson is illustrated, but not like this. This is a lot more illustrated. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot more references in this deck. If you know the Margaret Peterson, you'll most probably consider it like an energy deck. It's an energetic visualization of energy, whereas this is more scenic. There you go. The words are coming. If I didn't pull this deck, I would probably pull the Margaret Peterson or possibly the Mary L. The Mary L was my go-to at the moment. Scenically and elementally. And it takes a lot for a deck to beat the Mary L for me, as far as intuitive scenic reading goes. I mean, some of the cards are just phenomenal. I'm not taking away that this is a brilliant deck. I'm just saying I feel like you would need to work with it a lot to really just pull a card and go, oh, that's immediately, I know what that card is. You would have to reference it and reference it and reference it and reference it and reference it. Perhaps maybe learn from it from the word go. I feel like this card would just change. It would level up if they just put 5 of cups or 5 of water or whatever, 5 of air. If they just put the elemental suits on it. Now, obviously, I could just draw on it. That is another option. Perhaps I don't want to explore that because then if I still don't get on with it, it's less likely to find a home elsewhere, because obviously it's got writing on it, or my writing on it. So yeah, that's the first one. The people I know that do use this deck are just hardcore fans. They love it because of the different artwork, which I love it because of the different artwork. I think that adds to it. I don't think that subtracts from the deck at all. I think that is such a bonus, that there's different feelings and different emotions and different ways of conveying ideas and concepts. I also think having all those different illustrators in one deck as a reader, it keeps you on your toes a little bit. I like that. I'm just, for some reason, it's not the easiest of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not the easiest of reads. Not that that would deter me, but yeah, there's a few things. I feel like this has got a few hurdles for me to jump, and unfortunately for me, well, unfortunately for this deck anyway, I have got go-to tarot decks that just work. And I think when you're doing a reading, you know, unless you've got a long time to get used to something, I don't know, I just don't feel like this is the one for me. But we'll see. I'm going to try it with past life and ancestral work and see if that makes any difference. I don't really want to draw on it. If it was a deck that I absolutely, like the Marielle, for instance, I would write on and not have a problem with it because I know that I will never get rid of that deck. So that's the first one. Would I buy it again? Probably not. I feel bad. I feel bad pointing out. Part of me wanted to do this video because I want other people to see why you might not stick with a deck and not to feel bad about that. But also, I don't want to, there's a part of me that doesn't want to point out something as negative when I know the effort that has gone into creating a deck like this, or a deck at all. Please don't think that through any of these, this is a personal attack on any of these decks. I completely understand the effort, the love, the energy that has gone into making these decks, and I will always be in awe of creators. I don't feel like, maybe I've got it in me, I don't know, not right now, I haven't anyway. So I'm not taking it away. I think this will definitely find a home and has found a home for many readers. It's just not for me. So that's the first one. The second one, I'm genuinely a little bit gutted about this one. I wanted this deck for so long. The Queen Alice Tarot by Dame Darcy. This is the order, I wrote this down, this is the order that the mages came in when I first received the deck. I believe it's because it's in line with the story rather than the typical Fool's Journey. It's in line with the Fool's Journey of Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, I wanted this deck. I also really wanted the mermaid one, which I haven't gotten yet. Look at the box. This is like that rose petal finish. The whole box is just gorgeous. Got 2 extra little cards here. This deck, I love it. I love Alice in Wonderland, but for some reason, it's just not something I go to. I think this for me is a little bit like, so obviously if you've seen any of my other videos, you will know that I'm a lily white, blonde, English, girly girl. But inside I have the most goth emo heart. If I could get away with it, I would have black hair, black lips, amazing eye makeup. Like Racine, she just, I feel like she's my alter ego. I feel like that is this deck for me. It's my alter ego, and unfortunately when it comes down to it, it's just not how I work. Does it have a place in my collection? I don't think so. I don't feel like it has a certain role. I don't feel like it fulfills a certain role, which is really upsetting because I love Alice in Wonderland. From childhood, I've always loved it, but it's just not fulfilling something specific for me. Now, I don't know what I would say I would go to in place of this. I would call this a typical sort of Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. In that situation, I have really been enjoying just pulling out my Rider-Waite-Smith. Also, I think when you're reading for other people, there's something about pulling out the Rider-Waite-Smith that feels safe for them because it's one of the most commonly seen decks in various media formats, you know, on YouTube, in books. And I think there's something that makes people feel safe about the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's sort of what they expect. Sorry, excuse me. Hay fever is getting the better of me. And although I feel like this is a lot softer, this is a much softer energy, especially for people that are a little bit, I suppose, dubious of the tarot. For me as a reader, I feel more comfortable and confident just going with the Rider-Waite-Smith. There's another Rider-Waite-Smith based deck that is going to come up in this selection. I do have a few of Rider-Waite-Smith based decks that I like to use. One of them is the Ethereal Visions. One of them is the Three Trees Tarot, which is, oh my goodness, Oak, Ash and Thorn. I love that deck. Is my go-to. I am also, I think one of the things that is pushing me to consider getting rid of these decks is that I have been in a very heavy nature-based, earth-based space for a while now, for quite a few years. And I really don't feel like I'm going to come out of it anytime soon. I don't know. Maybe it's part of me feels like it's the midlife crisis, you know, the new midlife crisis, rather than a soft top red sports car. It's like all of a sudden we wake up and we have to garden and we're plant mothers. Maybe it's that, I don't know. But I just don't feel like I'm coming out of the nature phase for a while. Saying that, look at all the roses, so many roses. So much green. It is here, it's just not in the way that calls to me, I suppose. But again, do I get rid of it because it's Alice in Wonderland, it's Dame Darcy, the illustrations are just so beautiful. Part of me wanted to explore this deck with my children, however, by the time I got it, they were old enough to not give a flying hoot and not want to read. You know, they're out of the phase of us reading bedtime stories and things like that now. They are fully in their teenage years. And, you know, part of me was thinking, oh, maybe someone will have a baby and I can babysit them and we can look at them and read Alice in Wonderland and see if we can find the cards together in the deck. I don't know. I've had this like little daydream of exploring it with a young, creative, open mind, but some things are just not meant to be. So that is the Dame Darcy. I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry, excuse me. I told you, my hay fever. Okay, next Rider-Waite-Smith base deck, the Pulp Tarot. Now, in getting this out the cupboard and looking at it, I highly debated whether getting rid of it was a right move. This is an easy read. It is, you know, for me, a really cool representation of the Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. I am a graphic designer and printer and design historian, and this just ticks all those buttons. Ticks all the buttons, presses all the buttons, ticks all the boxes. Like, it's got so many references to design history that I just love. And I suppose if you know the historical references, it will add a bit more to it for you. Yeah, I feel like maybe I might replace my Rider-Waite-Smith deck on my altar for this one for a few months and use it in place of the Rider-Waite-Smith and see how I get on. Okie dokie. So yeah, I might replace it on my altar and see how it works. I think I was viewing it as a separate deck. Part of me wanted this to be seen, in my head anyway, as graphic design history in the tarot. And although that works, I feel like it's an additional experience. It shouldn't be the only experience. So I'm going to, I don't know, I feel like I sound weird saying that. When I saw it and when I got it, that was initially what came to mind, and the use for it and how I would read it. And although it's doable and achievable, I think one of the reasons I don't pull from it as much is because I'm making it too complicated for myself. So I'm just going to see this as my Rider-Waite-Smith equivalent for a while, test it out, and uncomplicate things. This is what my mind does. Makes things way too difficult. For myself anyway. Yeah, but isn't it just everything? Every time I get it out and I look at it, I'm like, oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. But then reading with it was not challenging, but just not easy. And I feel like I've moved into a more intuitive space recently. I'm going to review this one. I feel like as I'm talking about it, my mind's going, no, what are you doing? Don't do it. I'm going to review. I'm going to put it back on my altar. I'm going to pull from it instead of the Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm going to see how I fare, and I would imagine it won't be getting cold. It might stay, guys, it might stay. Watch your space though, we'll see. I think in about a month I'll most probably put up a post of all the things that I have finally decided on getting rid of. I have gotten rid of decks in the past and I've truly regretted it. And so that does make me wonder if it's the right thing to do. But at the same time, I don't want to become a hoarder. And I've never been one for keeping too much, which at the moment I'm most probably at the physically most tangible experience of heavy. This is most probably the heaviest, the weightiest part of my life. I have more stuff now than I've ever had. And although I'm very thankful for it, it does come with a certain weight. It does bring a certain sort of, I like to be light. I like to be able to move quickly and float around freely. And I do feel like I've got too much. Anyway, this is The Lightseers by Chrisanne. This is the most colourful, vibrant, gorgeous experience. I adore this deck, but I don't reach for it. I think one of the reasons I don't reach for it is because it is primarily human-based, and I don't really enjoy that as much. I don't mind, the quartz being human. I don't mind there being human references or archetypes, in the deck. But when every card is human, I start struggling. Now, I think this might be an autistic thing. My sister would probably certainly agree. I just find too many humans. This card upsets me. Ugh. The pregnant empress trope just does irritate me a little bit, but I get it. we all get it, but I just feel like, do we need to? Every single one, do we need to? Yeah, I feel like this might be an autistic thing. I feel like the experience of having every card as a human, like a human representation, is a little bit overwhelming for me. One of the things that makes me not want to get rid of it though is that it goes so well colour-wise when used with my favourite Lenormand deck. Let me get it. My one and only true love, my first ever deck, guys. Not this one, I had to get another one because the other one got really, really, really tatty. Titania Hardy's fortune cards. See what I mean? It sort of just seems to be made for each other. This seems a bit darker in relation to Croissant, but you get the gist. Like when you pull, if you're doing a Lenormand and tarot reading, these two just go so well. I think the only other, side note, the only other Lenormand deck that I would put up here with this one is Kelly's Story in Colour Lenormand. I actually feel like that would go better with this deck. But I mean, you know, I'm not taking away from how incredible the artwork is. And I don't feel like it's a difficult read. It's not a difficult read. See, look, if there was just more of this, why is the Tower an animal card and everything else is human? Why? Is that because we as humans are trashing the earth? Probably. That is the most amazing. I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. Yeah, it's not a difficult read. It's an easy read. It's a nice Rider-Waite-Smith equivalent. I don't particularly like the court cards in this. I think the reason for that is, although the other cards are human representations, the court cards are, you know, more often than not representing actual human interactions. And I feel like they are too set in the sort of person, I don't know, I know what I mean. It's difficult to verbalize, sorry. Maybe I should have gotten my head together before I made this video. When I read a court card, I like my mind to be left open enough to not particularly visualize who the person might be or how they might look or what their behavior is. I like to pull those things from the elemental associations and not be given the visual representation so much. So when the characters in this are posing in a certain way, dressed in a certain way, they give you this vibe check. And although that might be great if you exactly read the King of Swords as this type of energy, if you don't read the King of Swords as this type of energy, if this is not who you would expect as a King of Swords, it can be difficult. I suppose for me it's the difference between reading a book and allowing your mind to fill in some gaps and create some associations and build a picture of someone in your own head and then see it visualized on TV. You know, in some instances you read a book and then when they bring out the movie or the TV show, you think, oh my God, that is not what I pictured that person to look like. I find that's a problem with this deck for me. Like here, not so much because it's more of an energetic reading, right? But when it's a court card, If you don't necessarily see the Queen of Pentacles like this, then is that how you want to see them represented? I don't know. This is definitely a more modern take on the... This is one of the ones I suppose I like least, on the King of Swords. See, this is fine. That's not to say that, you know, I'm thinking about it now, it's not to say that I haven't got other decks that are human, have human representations in all of them. I'm thinking of the Santa Muerta. Maybe that's less so, actually, because there's a lot of skulls and scenic pictures without humans, so yeah, maybe not. Anyway, I love this. This is one of the ones I think will possibly go, unless the colour just says no. Colour-wise, this is your jam, you're staying, it's staying. However, I can replace it easily. This isn't a first edition or anything. I can see myself buying this again if I do get rid of it, possibly, you know, if the mood takes me. But I just don't use it very often at all. Not enough to warrant it having a space in my collection. And I do feel like I can get the same energy from other Rider-Waite Smith decks. Again, I think I would be keeping it for how it comes across for the querents more than myself. If I was trying to make them feel more comfortable in a tarot space, then this is probably one of the ones that I would pull out, because I think it's a lot more, it's a softer, more approachable energy. That is the Pressman Light Seers. I remember when I first saw this and I was just, oh, I have to get that, I have to get that. Now, another Chrysan tarot deck, unfortunately, bless her. She's such an amazing artist, and I wish I could vibe with her as much as I want to. But the Muse Tarot. Now, I know that Natalia from Tarot Shrink absolutely adores this deck. I also adore this deck, but I cannot read with it. I cannot read with it. I love the artwork. I love the artwork. It is so gorgeous and so inventive and creative, and sets up new space for new, you know, I suppose I would call this an intuitive read, definitely. But for some reason, I just really struggle with it. And how awesome is it that the kings or the muses are landscape? I'm so in love with that concept. Like, they've got the wider view on things. They're looking at everything. They're not looking at one path. They're looking at all paths. There are so many images in this that I would genuinely consider blowing up and putting on my wall. I really do quite like the photographic montage type. Look at this. Gorgeous. Yeah, I really do like this artwork style. I like this more than the sort of first generation of photographic collage, which I would consider as Danielle Noel. What was her deck? Moonchild. I feel like this is less ethereal, this is more tangible. I think I'm quite a tangible person. I do have ethereal decks, but they have certain purposes and they're not things that I would grab continually. Like this death card, look at that. It's giving Silence of the Lambs a little bit for me. Yeah, there are some cards that I love, some cards that I'm not so much, like this one. Yeah, it's just not the easiest of reads for me. For some reason, I just can't get on with it. I'm not, you know, it's a totally personal, subjective thing. I suppose this is just not the way I read. I really want to. I suppose if I put my mind to it, I could get used to it, but I don't know, life is short, guys, and I've been reminded of that so many times recently. I would rather be developing my practice rather than developing my experience or connection with or forcing a experience or connection with a certain deck. I would rather be in the thick of reading. So that's just me though, you know. If you feel like time is on your side, which I often don't, then this could be a deck for you. I do like the way that it seems to be expansive, creative, intuitive. It seems to open up new paths of connections and thinking and translating the messages of the cards. I really enjoyed edging this deck as well. I was really pleased with the colour combo. So, poor Croissant, I'm so sorry, my love. You know, we can't be everything to all people, right? This one, I was talked into getting, and I absolutely love it, but I don't connect with it. I feel like, for me, its use is bordering on, how do I put this? I do not feel connected. I adore the indigenous traditions. They are beautiful, they are rich, they are cultural, they are spiritual, they are connected, they are respectful and hold reverence. I just, you know, I follow a lot of indigenous creators on social media. I love their heritage. I love their allegory. I love their traditions, but I'm also not of that line. And there are certain things that I can connect with. For instance, I can connect more with Slavic traditions, and I can connect more with Celtic traditions because I feel like it is in my bloodline. I have Nordic/Slavic heritage. I have a Romany lineage. I have a strong Celtic lineage. And so those things I feel are open to exploration for me. However, I do not feel like I'm connecting with this deck because I don't feel like it is for me. Obviously, the fact that this has been made, I don't know, I've never seen Kyle Gray, I don't know, I'm assuming they are of indigenous origin. The card and the deck itself is just stunning. But I feel like this has got the same feeling to me as if I walked into a church. I have respect for that tradition. I have more respect for this tradition, to be fair, than the church, but I have respect for that tradition. I have no judgment. But I know it's not where I belong. Weirdly, there's some sort of Celtic integration here. There's Egyptian, it's not just indigenous, but it does give me a vibe that it's like it's not meant for you. So respectfully, I don't use this deck. It is gorgeous. I think if you feel connected to it, then it would be a really powerful deck. And I know it is for many people. But for me, it's just not, I just don't feel like I'm its audience. It's not meant for me. I feel like this is listening, the messages I get from this, it's almost like listening into someone else's call. It feels, what's the word I'm looking for? Intrusive somehow. I mean, gorgeous. If I had an indigenous shamanic teacher, you know, or indigenous lineage, it's weird because there are Celtic nods to it. It's not just indigenous, you know, that was a Hindu. This is a Hindu reference. It's not just indigenous, but it does feel indigenous to me. And I love that. If anything, I feel like perhaps they should have just gone for it and stuck to that. Look at this, just fabulous. This is giving Romany, which is totally my lineage. But yeah, it just feels like I'm intruding on someone else's space. So I am going to get rid of this deck. And I hope that it finds a home with someone that is able to connect with it fully and allow it the space that it deserves. Wondering if I've got decks in my collection that I would consider attached to my lineage. I don't think so. I mean, the Fairies Oracle is pretty, I would say is the closest. What else? There's things like the Witch Sister Tarot, which I know that I can, you know, that's definitely feels like it's part of me because it's something that I have been a part of myself since my early teens, if not younger. I don't know though, as far as a heritage perspective goes, I don't think I've got anything particularly Celtic or Nordic. You know what, I've got a lot of pagan decks which really do feel like home. One of the most recent ones is the Old Ways Magic Oracle. This really does feel like home to me. Anyway, moving on from that, my last one I was talked into getting by Candy Morrigan. She did a YouTube video on the zombie tarot. Now, this comes with a... I need to set up my headspace for this one. Candy Morrigan persuaded me to get this with her video, which I will link down below. However, I have a fear. If I was going to say, if someone says to me, what are your fears? I have 2 fears. Maybe 3 fears. One of them I'm not going to talk about. But I think it's more of a phobia. I have a phobia of maggots. Ugh, just saying it and thinking about it just sets me off. That's just not, that is not in my remit. I cannot deal with them. We religiously call them disco rice in my family because we do not say the M word. And the other fear I have is zombies. Zombies make my heart pound so hard, make me breathless, I remember watching the intro to World War Z with my husband. A zombie had not yet come on screen, but the build up to it, I was 5 minutes in and hyperventilating and upstairs with my head between my legs. Between my knees rather. I cannot deal with zombies. If there was a zombie apocalypse, I would just... Part of me wants to think that I would go out of my way and to save my children, and, you know, my mother defences would kick in, and I truly hope they would, because I feel like that is the only situation where they might not. I might just throw myself off a cliff. I'm hoping and praying that that never happens. Anyway, Candy Morrigan, in all her persuasive, lovely persuasiveness, sold this deck to me, not literally, but sold me on the concept of it. I'm building myself up to open the box. Can you can you tell? And I just can't. I'm not even looking at the deck. This is going to be a wild throwdown, guys, because I'm barely looking at this as I do this. We're going to zip through this one. I can't do this deck. I tried. There have been times and spaces where I've been calm enough and measured enough and balanced enough and rational enough to go through this deck and use this for readings. However, that space is not one that I can often pull out often enough to have this in my collection. That'll do. You get the gist. You get the gist. This is leaving my collection. This is going. I just can't. It's got a cute little book. It's like giving Pip-Boy from Fallout. You know, it's a cute, the whole thing is, well, it's not cute, but you know, the whole thing is done really well. But it ain't for me. And it's going away, and there it will stay. Nice and packed away. So, there we go. Possibly not. Definitely going. Definitely going. Definitely going. Reviewing. In review. I don't want to get rid of it, but I don't use it, so definitely going. And in review. This is my first major deck culling. I'm hoping and praying that it works out and I don't immediately regret selling them. But I have faith that they will find good homes. So yeah, I will, if you're interested in any of them, please let me know. I will put up a link to the website when I have my final decisions up. Let me know if you've gotten on with any of these. If there are any decks here that you love and use religiously for a certain reading or for a certain ritual, please let me know. I would really like to know how you all get on with these decks. Any advice, any opinions, totally welcome. Love you all. Hopefully see you soon. Love you, bye.